Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to this Tuesday evening as we begin our foray into what again is another entry in the Quickism Quictionary. And how quickly are we going to quickly assert Quick is a great misunderstanding of everything holy and true in this world? Well, let's start with something completely ridiculous with the infinitely high boyfriend factor. With the infinitely high boyfriend factor, I am not fond of about 99.9 recurring, I'm not finishing the rest of this, something 6, of the total male population, with a margin of error of the 4 billionth of a percent for about 100 men. Okay, of whom are okay acquaintances. Those doofs get all the luck, having a sweetheart to care for and to be cared from, getting all the hugs, kisses, and emotional support, and the security of a solid future without loneliness and with love and children. Chris demonstrating his mathematical prowess. Yeah, he claims he got on a roll at high school. I am not convinced. I am also not convinced whether or not he actually understands why other people can get into relationships. Listen, as much as I understand, possibly from Chris's point of view, that his autism is referred to as a giant lens to the world in which he cannot see or sees very badly how events and that play out. But what's very, very important to understand is that this is Chris's mindset, and he is so reluctant to change that he will never admit at any point that maybe there's more than just the fact that men are just luckier than himself. This is something that anybody over the age of probably about 14 should probably know, especially if they start seeing of it. Listen, when I was 14, I started noticing a lot of people in my school were getting into relationships and just trying to, hang out with, people of the opposite sex and whatnot. But that doesn't mean to say that I thought all of them were just infinitely better. Because I had to work on myself, I had to work on socializing. There was a lot of things I had to do to improve, and I'm just kind of at this point in my life, I'm just kind of if I really wanted to be in a relationship, I would just try things differently. But at this point in my life, I'm just kind of okay with the way things are. Some people are just absolutely fine with being single. Chris is not happy with that, however. The infinitely high boyfriend factor is Chris's primary concern of his love quest. It refers to the incredibly high probability that any given girl he speaks to will already have a boyfriend, making it impossible for him to find a sweetheart. The fear of this factor leaves Chris all but paralyzed when he even thinks about speaking to a woman. In real life, a fear he has named noviophobia. For those who are not in the know, noviophobia does not exist. It is Chris's make-believe term based on the Spanish word for boyfriend, which suggests that Chris is afraid of boyfriends. In reality, and I know immediately what you guys are going to say anyway, but I may as well voice my opinion just because I can. Chris takes everything at such face value that he seems to believe that, it's not just any excuse to get Chris to go away. As opposed to him just saying, any girl just saying, I'm not interested. Or, in fact, maybe it is true, and that pretty much sets in stone that case there. Mathematicians have worked in vain for years to disprove Chris's theorem, but the proof is in the pudding. Chris is still single, so it must be because of all the jerks have taken all the pretty girls. His explanation, not mine. But then again, I'm not a jerk, and also, again, I'm not that interested in the moment, so. This realization led to him narrow his search and focus on boyfriend-free girls. Something very direct and something very, very specific. That's about as far as Chris can technically go. If one uses the recently passed number of 7 billion people, and assuming that half are men, applying the infinitely high boyfriend factor means that there are 3.5 billion people, meaning that 0.014 males in the world that Chris doesn't hate. Roughly speaking, 14. There's roughly about 14, or if not 14, then 140, but it couldn't be any higher than that. And I don't even think Chris knows 140 males that he can quote-unquote respect. And 14 is already pushing it. Chris, get used to it, Chris, as he makes this Yu-Gi-Oh card. Lonesome Chris, I know, could he not think of like using smaller text? Because, look, I'm gonna help Chris out here for the first time in a while. I'm gonna do something for him. See, this is the size of the text that you should have on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It should be small, but it should, get the point across anyway. Chris looks like he's made it for people who are specifically, short-sighted, or for himself. And it's just a picture of Chris looking like a spoon with some shit stuck to the back of it, going sigh, because Chris can't even draw anything without, his sighing involved as well. If you have one monster on your side of the field, you can special summon one monster from your hand. Again, I said this yesterday as well, and I don't even know what angle he's supposed to be looking at, or whether or not his legs have just come off. But realistically, he could have said this, you could have called something like this, like Friendly Alliance, where you could have special summoned one monster. And also, this should be a quick play spell card, because it would make more sense that you would have to activate something quick, so your monster on the field can get, can get a friend in there as well. I spent nearly a whole minute talking about a friggin' Yu-Gi-Oh card that Chris made, and I found that far more interesting. That he also credited himself as opposed to the actual team at Konami. Uses by Chris. Chris appears to have coined the term in Soniju's News Dash. It shows up in a couple of the middle issues of the newsletter. During one of his self-pitying advertisements for his Love Quest and his collection of dating tips. In Chris's letter to Nintendo Power concerning Sprung, he says the game helped him forget his fear of the infinitely high boyfriend factor. Now, you know what? You could say there are things out there that could, restore confidence and make you realize that you just have to be a little bit more natural and just, not be so nervous if you're going to talk to a girl. Unfortunately, being nervous is the least of Chris's issues, no matter what he says about this. In an email to Megan about his angry freakout at the gameplays, inspired by Megan kissing a friend of hers, Chris blames the boyfriend factor for his insane hatred of other men. Chris mentioned it in Chris Chan's public announcement, his first YouTube address, when talking about the early days of his sweetheart search. In Vivteg's AIM chat, Chris says his sweetheart search started with the realization of the infinitely high boyfriend factor. You mean, again, this is what inspired the idea that Chris just did this for purely selfish and self-loathing reasons, meaning that he just had to take one girl just so that somebody else couldn't. Somebody left a comment in a video where they said that they believed that Chris didn't even like the Wallflower to begin with, and she was just, for Chris, a means to an end to take his virginity. I think that's quite interesting, and I'll have to look that up in perhaps other instances as well, because Chris will always say, I love you, I need you, but he doesn't speak naturally to people. He doesn't speak of them as friends first or acquaintances. And even when Chris gets caught out by Casey about this, he still just goes straight back to saying that he loves her a few days later anyway. A series of White Knight emails from September 2008 includes repeated complaints about the boyfriend factor. In an IRC chat with his fans in December 2008, Chris listed the boyfriend factor among many impediments for his quest for a girlfriend. Aside from, everything else that's wrong with Chris, which include racism, misogyny, homophobia, a lack of maturity, a lack of financial support, and Chris's propensity to just sit on his arse and be a stay-at-home husband. Comet Chris whines about the boyfriend factor when he's battling the bee manager in sub-episode 4. Chris's cartoon version of Robert Simmons V mentions the boyfriend factor in his interview on KCWC in Sonichu issue 7. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is fairly short, but it kind of like covers all the basis of Chris's, perpetual lack of maturity in the infinitely high boyfriend factor, which I think it's fair to say that mathematicians for years to come will just walk past this with the biggest amount of swagger you could possibly imagine. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all of you have enjoyed this, and I'll see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.